I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Cannon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Okay, before we get going, I want to preface this. If you have not seen Spider-Man No Way Home, there will be intense spoilers in this podcast.
All of the spoilers. We cannot stress this enough. Stop listening now. Right now. Turn it off if you have not seen this movie.
Yes. Please, if you do not want to be spoiled, come back here after you've seen the movie. And yeah, because we are not going to hold back on any spoilers. That being said, hi, Kiki!
Hi, Tuesday! Seriously, this is your final warning. Turn it off now if you haven't seen this movie. Have you seen the movie? You're sure you've seen the movie? Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about what we got right, what we got wrong in our lead up to this movie. Because we did that whole, we're going to go through all the Spider-Mans, even though Disney doesn't own them and it wouldn't normally be in our purview because there were all the rumors about maybe there are Spider-Mans in this movie.
And there were Spider-Mans in this movie.
Boy, were there Spider-Mans in this movie. There were all of the Spider-Mans in this movie.
Yeah, we got Andrew Garfield. We got Tobey Maguire.
I'm surprised we didn't get, Peter Porker Spider-Ham wandering through this movie. I'm surprised we did not get Miles Morales in this movie.
We got a reference.
We did get a reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was exactly what everybody was wanting. And let's just get this out of the way. And the Oscar goes to Andrew Garfield for his portrayal in I Am Not in This Movie for the entirety of 2021.
Poor Andrew. All he wanted to do was talk about Tick, Tick, Boom, and all anyone else wanted to talk about was Spider-Man.
Yeah, Tobey Maguire got off so easy because Tobey Maguire had nothing else come out during the year of 2021.
Yeah.
This was the only film Tobey Maguire had come out in 2021. And that was such a blessing for him because he was able to go, guys, I don't have anything to promote this year. And he was able to just deny all press junkets. Andrew Garfield had to promote 5 movies this year because he was in everything.
He was in the Tammy Faye Baker movie. Again, yeah. He was in Tick, Tick, Boom.
Yeah.
The dude works. The dude has not stopped working. If you only seen him in Spider-Man, you haven't seen him in really anything that he really puts a lot of heart and soul into. Not to say he didn't do it in Spider-Man, but if you only know him as the guy that played Spider-Man, you're missing out on a lot of really good movies and a lot of really good performances.
Yeah, I mean, he was in a lot of stuff this year. And so he had to do all of the press interviews for all of that other stuff that it was actually known he was going to be in. And the only thing anybody wanted to talk about was, are you going to be in Spider-Man? And he had to do all these interviews of I can't wait to see this movie. I'm sure it's going to be a good movie, but I am not in this movie. And give that man a special Oscar because honestly, even having seen that movie, I went back and watched there are compilations on YouTube now of every time he denied he was in the movie. I still kind of believe him that he wasn't in this movie.
Yeah, so I'm in the theater and they do the scene, find Peter Parker. And then you see the silhouette with the wide eyes from Amazing 2. It's oh, and then you see the suit, and then you see him unmasked. Oh, it's him. It's Andrew Garfield. He's in this movie.
And then you're kind of sitting there like, but is he really in this movie?
I mean,
even
did he really
it,
did he really interact with anybody, or was it just all green screen?
And then he's like grabbing Tobey Maguire and popping his back, and you're like, well, that's not CGI.
Yeah.
And then you're actually watching the scene because there was that infamous bit that had gotten leaked somehow.
Oh yeah, where they're talking about the organic webbing.
Yeah, and the thing is that had gotten leaked as a no audio, like, GIF.
Yeah.
Online somehow. And
it's him. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's him on a blue screen holding.
No, if you haven't seen it, why are you still listening?
True, but
but it is the point in the movie where he says, "Do you ever get web block?"
Yeah.
Because of the organic webbing. And because there was no audio and it was just people reading lips, people had read his lips as, "So do you have web blood?" Which is actually pretty close. And from that, people had figured out that not only was he in the movie, but that he was talking to Tobey Maguire, and that the context of the scene was they were discussing the fact that one of the three has organic webbing, which is bravo internet. That is a lot of context to pull out of a 3-second soundless GIF.
And he had to deny that. Oh, that's Photoshop. That's not me.
It's a deep fake.
Yeah, it's a deep fake. Yeah.
That was, and even before the film came out, I watched a lot of things, including people who do special effects for a living and stuff. There's a lot of really good things of how can you tell a deep fake versus real footage and stuff, and people going through and talking about the source of lighting and the texture of hair. Things like how the light bounces off of the moisture on people's teeth. Little things, and honestly, it's a really good way to tell real footage from fake footage. Look up some of those videos from before the film ever came out if you are really interested in how to tell computer-generated deep fake footage from actual stuff, because it's fascinating. And a lot of people were saying if this is a deep fake, this is a massive upgrade in technology that is terrifying because it's the best one we've ever seen. So it was very compelling to me and when we were talking about if we were going to do that lead up of the Spider-Man episodes, one of the reasons why I kind of thought we should do it was because of that footage did not seem fake.
You wanted to do it, but you were kind of, should we do it? Are we spoiling anything? It's like everyone knows that there's going to be 3 Spider-Men in this movie. Let's just go for it. And, we did it.
Yeah. So, well, at the same time, it's like it was one of those things of I knew that the internet was kind of hoping for it, but we've been burned before. There's always the famous Ralph Bohner.
Yeah, I was going to mention
problem.
that. Back earlier this year, we see the Fox X-Men Quicksilver, and it's Ralph Bohner.
Well, because we had talked about did we want to talk about that WandaVision bit and talk about the multiverse now including the Fox X-Men, because we knew that they were doing this multiverse thing because they had already dropped the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness title. So we knew that the MCU was going in this multiverse direction. And we knew that they had plans to bring something in.
Yeah, though heavily rumored that past actors were going to be appearing in something.
Yeah, we didn't have the context of the Spider-Man thing yet.
Because people
So
were throwing the idea of, oh, it's such and such actor in Doctor Strange and such and such actor in WandaVision, and we got burned in WandaVision, and then people started saying, oh, we're going to get burned the whole way through.
yeah, and it became the thing of after the WandaVision thing, it became, are they just using this to get people to go to the theater on opening weekend? Is this a trick to front load as many pre-sale tickets before word gets out that this is not happening? Because much like with the Star Wars thing, the social media thing was, don't be a bag of Richards and don't spoil it for everybody.
Yeah.
Which can work either way. If they're in the movie, then it's positive because it's like, well, don't spoil the really awesome surprise. But if they're not in the movie, it's like, well, don't spoil the big letdown that could hurt the ticket sales.
We never said so and so was going to be in the movie. You thought of that yourself.
Yeah,
and we kind of got
Feige had been doing that,
We kind of got that recently with the post-credit scene for Hawkeye. I enjoyed that post-credit scene very much, but there's a number of fans that were disappointed. Oh, where was this character? Where was that character? Why didn't we actually see these characters in the post-credit scene instead of what we got? And it's like, you were never promised that. You made that up in your own head. You set yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah. And I was kind of over Christmas break, we talked about all the stuff with Loki, just recently, and I was kind of talking about that one of the things I think they did with Loki was fans kept talking about Loki so much that they just opened up Loki to the point of like, you know what, shut up. Anybody could be Loki. Your houseplant could be Loki now. Just shut up about it.
Houseplant Loki coming in season 2.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, I think that part of it is the expectation, but part of it is just them kind of getting sick of the fans in a way. But now, I think that they're doing, this multiple Spider-Man and the multiple universe thing. In one way, I think they wanted to give a send-off to Toby. I will say that I'm a little sad that they didn't kind of just wrap that up fully, because it was kind of a fake out. They kind of made it look like they were going to kill him off.
Yeah.
Because they did the kind of he got stabbed thing, and it looked like they were going to bring the three of them together to kind of just be like, and now he dies, and the other two are going to mourn him. Which I think would have been very appropriate and very correct.
Considering the 1 hour previous, we had Aunt May's death.
Yeah, which I disagree with. I think that was a bad way to go. I think that given we have to do the erase Peter from the memories of everyone who loves him thing, he would have still lost Aunt May at the end anyway.
Yeah, can you imagine that?
Why actually just go through the kill her off? Because it now kind of, I think, reverses Uncle Ben's death, because even though we didn't see Tom Holland's Uncle Ben die, the fans just kind of, we wrote that in our brain, didn't we? We've talked about that we didn't have to see that on camera. We just assumed that happened, that Ben died. He did the great power, great responsibility speech. That version of Peter went on to become Spider-Man, blah, blah, blah.
And it's
we filled that in.
yeah, because we've seen it twice already. We don't need
Yeah.
to see we didn't need to see it a third time. And in a way, yeah, we saw it a third time.
But now that Aunt May does it with Tom's Peter saying, like, how do you guys know that statement? And they say, well, that's what Ben said before he died. Now it tells us definitively that Tom's Ben did not say that before he died. That was not part of his story.
There is a little blink and you miss it audio thing after May says it, and you'll hear Tom say, I know.
Well, but there's a difference between, like, you know, I know what you're saying, and I recognize that that's what Ben always said.
We don't know we know nothing about this universe's Ben Parker. And
yeah. But
yes,
it does seem to kind of retcon Ben's sacrifice, whatever it may be. Like, at this point, maybe Ben just had a heart attack. We don't know anymore.
I mean, and we may not even see it in this upcoming animated series.
Yeah. So it does kind of seem to almost erase that, because of the way they've now kind of shifted that onto May. Like, oh, her death was not in vain, because now that's what you need to, like, really be Spider-Man and not just Spider-Boy, you know, which seems to be what the movie is saying, which I kind of don't like. I would have preferred for her to live, and the sacrifice being him choosing to have her memories go away and maybe her have a life with Happy, but without Peter. You know? Which would have been tragic.
That would have been even more tragic. Yes, he lost his best friend. Yes, he lost his girlfriend. But also
lost May.
Yeah, but losing May, but she's still alive, but he can never say, I'm your nephew, Peter.
Yeah. And he just has to watch her from the sidelines move on with her life. Would be, you know, kind of awful. But yeah, but the thing is I thought, like, the kind of awful sacrifice would be kind of like watching another version of himself die. In Toby's version. Mm-hmm. And seeing that kind of sacrifice and stuff. And realize that being Spider-Man does mean sacrificing. You know, Toby's version sacrificing his life, Andrew's version having sacrificed his true love. Mm-hmm. You know, and now Peter's version has to sacrifice basically his entire life, all of his friends, all of his family, his connection to, you know, the Avengers and all that, and live a very solitary life at the end of the film. It would have been like a nice continuity of sacrifice among them. And they've all lost Ben in all three of their universes. And there's no need to kind of also kill off May in that sense. But the thing in that moment, though, is that, and then, you know, kind of Toby gets up and limps off and everything, but Toby did say in interviews for the film that he wanted this to be his end for the character. Granted, that Disney Sony money combined is sweet. who knows what comes later, but he did kind of say that he wanted, you know, he is 46 now, and you could tell from the way they dressed him in the film that he does not really want to be putting on that suit. They even made that joke of, like, you gonna dress like a youth pastor. you gonna put on a suit. So you can tell that he does not really want to be doing doing the workout and putting on the spandex at this point in his life. On the other hand, though, I have never seen anybody more thrilled to be doing a part than Andrew Garfield was to be doing this movie.
I mean, there have been, since the movie came out, there have been fans demanding for Amazing 3, or at least to have Andrew be the Sony Spider-Man in their universe. You know, we're having Venom and Morbius coming out, and there are people who said maybe Andrew Garfield should be the Spider-Man of those movies.
And I think that would be awesome. And, you know, we've talked on the show before about how there's pie enough for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
If they'd stop being greedy about it, there's pie enough for everybody. And that comics have always had all these kind of just multiple intersecting storylines, you know? And there's like Spider-Man 2099, and there's, you know, Amazing Spider-Man, and there's Ultimate Spider-Man, and there, you know, and comic readers for decades have just kind of been down with that. And I think that movie audiences are also okay to be down with that. I mean, maybe not in huge numbers, but we're seeing that now that, and kind of the pandemic has brought it kind of crashing forward in a way that maybe it was slowly moving beforehand. But the thing is that film was changing beforehand, and the pandemic just kind of, you know, smashed it into us. Mm-hmm. That with streaming services and home distribution and the changing way of movie theaters, that I think that if you release these things, they're going to find an audience. It just may not be all of the audience. You know, when you have a monopoly on something, it's like, well, if you want to see a Spider-Man movie, this is the only game in town.
Well, right now, we have 2 Spider-Man universes going on in film right now, between the Holland universe and the animated Miles Morales universe.
Yeah, and they're both making good money.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And we also have the people that want to see the Venom Carnage movies, mm-hmm. You know? And the audience that's gonna be around for the Morbius movie, excuse me, and whatever that's gonna be, you know?
And whatever other Spider-Man movies that Sony's going to come up with. You know, there's rumors of a Kraven the Hunter movie in development. That could also be part of this thing.
So I think if you're just like, hey, I want some money instead of, hey, I want all of the money, I think you're going to make good money. It just might not be all of the money ever. Mm-hmm. So I think if you're okay with just making enough money, you know, I think if you're okay with making profit, that there's an audience out here for it. If you're okay with not being the only game in town. And you know what? It's all going back to Sony anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, Sony still ends up with the money, you know? So, I think maybe they just need to shut up and do the thing. And I think at the end of the day, Andrew Garfield would be super happy to go off into whatever universe the Venom movies are currently existing in and be the Spider-Man of that universe.
Let him fight an alien.
Holland, yeah, and let him fight an alien because he wants to do that. And let Tom Holland be the Spider-Man over in the MCU. And those movies can happen. Because at the end of the film, you know, in that post-credits sequence, it's very obvious that Venom minus a tiny little bit of the symbiote goo, gets zapped back to whatever Sony universe outside of the Marvel universe is going on.
I love that we got our sixth member of the Sinister Six. It was Venom, and he would rather drink at the bar.
Yeah, I like that he was okay with just not being part of this. Yeah. Because also, I think he was in Mexico, and it would have just taken longer to get on a plane and go to New York for whatever battle this was. But I loved every moment of this. I love that we kind of have the setup of Ned's family having magic.
I mean, he is a goblin in some universes.
Yeah, he is Hobgoblin, I think.
Yeah, Hobgoblin.
In some versions of the story, but also he kind of just accidentally uses the sling ring.
Just moving his hands around. I want to see Peter. Oh,
yeah,
I do have magic.
I like that. Strange just kind of is like, oh, that took me like 3 or 4 months to even begin to master, and you did it accidentally over dinner. I'm not upset about this at all.
I mean, that's a potential future sequel there where you could have Ned training under Doctor Strange and Wong.
Yeah. I also like that Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme now by default of the
default.
blip.
Yeah. Strange leaves for 5 years. They need a Sorcerer Supreme. Here's Wong.
Yeah.
Which explains why Wong was in Shang-Chi.
Yeah, but I also like that Strange just kind of wanders around as if he's still Sorcerer Supreme. Just wandering around with the cloak of levitation and sweatpants. Just wandering around the Sanctum Sanctorum.
The equivalent of walking around in your PJs and bathrobe.
Yeah. And at this point, because the cloak of levitation's kind of sentient anyway, so I like that it's just apparently choosing to hang out with him rather than him putting it on. It's just like, no, we're gonna hang out today, buddy.
I wanna go to a line that really hit me. Is when the Peters are talking about their loss. We've mentioned that already, but when Andrew Garfield talks about losing Gwen and going into that dark place, like there's adventures we never saw, and he says how bitter and rage-filled he got, and he stopped holding back. We've talked on how strong Spider-Man can be.
I wonder how many like jaws he punched off of faces or spines he pulled out of poor dudes,
this Peter likely killed some people.
I wonder about that because, there's the bit at the beginning of his first movie where he goes vigilante before he becomes proper Spider-Man, where he's just emo dude in a hoodie beating up guys.
Yeah.
So it's not like we haven't seen him go to that dark place before. So it would be interesting to kind of revisit that.
And he even says it to Tom Holland, don't be like me. Don't let your rage consume you. So it's like these are 3 different Peters in 3 different positions in their life. You have the Peter, Tobey Maguire, who did go to that dark place and like in Spider-Man 3, come out the other side and is still trying to learn how to be a better person. And you have Andrew Garfield, who is still in that dark place. And they're both looking at Tom, who is about to enter that dark place. And they're trying to tell him, help him go through it and get out the other side. Because we see Tom go to that dark place and he's about to kill the goblin.
Yeah, he's about to kill him with his glider. Yeah.
At least it wouldn't be to the Nards.
Yeah, it's just like
Straight into the chest.
I may have been like, aim lower, lower, lower. But yeah, and there are all kinds of little nods, like, Toby repeating like, "You're amazing, man." It's like you have to do that.
This movie went through all the Spider-Man memes, even the pointing meme.
Yeah, even the pointing meme they did.
My back.
The back meme. We never got to the point, but I love that's my favorite line from that particular movie, and it's because it was
a reference to it was a reference to a real life event, because Toby almost was not in Spider-Man 2 because he hurt his back on Seabiscuit.
Yeah, and but it was also apparently it kind of thrown out there as a joke by Ted Raimi, who happened to be on set that day. Is the story that I've always heard, is that Ted was visiting his brothers on set, and he was like, they were like, this feels like it needs a joke, and that was the joke that Ted threw out, because knowing the backstory. And they were like, "Oh, that's actually good," and Ted kept it in.
And the one that got the big laugh out of my theater, which was, I'm sort of a scientist myself.
Yeah, that's always a good line. I mean, it's there's so many just throwaway lines in this that it's like, I have a feeling that every time we rewatch this, as it hits the home market, and that we're going to be rewatching this. A friend of mine pointed out to me privately that he caught something in his watch that I did not catch in mine, which is that the mural that they put up in the school, mm-hmm. when they put up that like ode to Spider-Man mural for Peter in the school, mm-hmm. And but as he's coming up the stairs, there's that mural of all the famous scientists.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all the real world scientists.
And they've added a bunch of they added a bunch of MCU scientists.
But they added like Hank Pym and Howard Stark in there too.
That, yeah.
And I didn't catch that in my watch, but one of my friends pointed it out to me, so yeah. But yeah, there's so much in this. We finally, we finally see that, like, even stuff like the little coffee cup at the end that MJ hands Peter,
yeah,
is the same one from the Netflix shows. That coffee cup appears all the time in the Netflix shows.
Oh yeah.
So not only does Matt Murdock, make his return in this.
Oh yeah, that
which we haven't talked about yet, but
Charlie Cox back as Matt Murdock.
Which I was expecting him in a different MCU property, but nope, we get him in this one.
And it happens the same week that we get Vincent D'Onofrio back in Hawkeye as the Kingpin.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say that, but okay.
It's out there. These episodes are out there.
Yeah, but so not only do we get that as a tie-in to the Netflix shows, but we get that kind of rather infamous cup that's repeated all the time in the Netflix shows. That's kind of every time somebody gets coffee in those shows, it always comes in that cup. So probably another little nod to maybe more of those Netflix characters might be coming. I don't know.
I'm hoping. Crossing my fingers, hoping.
Who knows?
We've mentioned them. Let's try to get to our villains. We did get confirmation. Rhys Ifans back voicing the Lizard.
And in some of the they pulled some footage.
Yeah, Reese Ifans and Thomas Hayden Church were not actually on set for this movie. Those were reused shots from their respective movies in their human forms. I can forget it. Considering both of them were filming other projects at the time, they wouldn't have even gotten a chance to be on set.
Yeah, but at least they did the voices,
Yeah.
Of course, which is fine. That's okay. So, Alfred Molina, though, really, really cool, coming back. And they had to use that same, de-aging, thing that they used a lot for, when they used it in Guardians of the Galaxy, for Ego.
Yeah.
But they did that. They did the tentacles totally through CGI instead of doing any puppetry.
That has gotten some people, complaining, oh, it's been CG and there's no practical. Alpha Malaya was very happy that they were CGI because he always complained that harness was very heavy with those puppets on him.
Yeah, he absolutely loved it. According to Tom Holland, he was so happy. The only thing he didn't like was he had to stand on a like a remote control platform, and so apparently they would be talking between shots, and the platform was controlled by somebody off camera or whatever, and apparently Alfred Molina and Tom Holland would be talking to each other, and they would occasionally just need to reset the platform or move it somewhere else, and apparently the two actors would just be chatting between scenes, and then the platform would move, and Alfred Molina would be like, okay, well, bye, Tom, apparently I'm going somewhere else now, because he was attached to the platform and couldn't control where he was going. So they would just be talking, and then Alfred Molina would just start drifting somewhere else. So they said that was the only thing he didn't like, was that occasionally he would just be transported elsewhere without his
mid-conversation.
Yeah, mid-conversation without his permission. So that was apparently the only thing he didn't like. But he said that, other than that, it was great because he didn't have anything like weighing down on his shoulders or, back or anything. He just had to stand on a platform that would occasionally move him places he didn't intend to go.
And Jamie Foxx loved it because he wasn't blue anymore.
Yeah, he just kind of got to stand there and be Jamie Foxx.
I mean, Electro is blue, but that's all CG, which works for me.
Yeah, and they did really cool things like using the electricity to do the outline of the mask from the comics and stuff,
Yeah. I mean, they kind of waved it away that he got a new body and everything, but that's fine. It's a movie.
And I like what they did with the arc reactor energy, and how that played with his, that it was something new to this universe that he didn't have in his original universe.
Yeah.
So I liked that adding in.
I mean, they even, Tom Holland Spider-Man even says, we have advanced technology in this universe. We can make whatever you want, and that seems to be the thing that gets Electro over the edge. Like, I'm going to take this technology and add it to my power.
Yeah, and I like little things like the villains being like, wait, there's magic in this universe. There's, you have all this advanced fabrication technology, like Tom's Peter's 3D printing unit that he has from Stark. The arc reactor technology, um, things that they come up on that. I love the fact that they turned J. Jonah Jameson into a kind of weird conspiracy theorist kind of guy, instead of the traditional Daily Bugle print media.
And it's a nice adaptation to modern, because we see it in real life where print news is kind of a dead medium. No offense to those who still go by print news. But for televised news, you really need to get people involved, and just the facts aren't enough to keep the viewer.
Well, it's not even televised news. It's an internet. I mean, there's a .net at the end of it now.
Yeah. So, I mean, we don't have to go into the personalities that he's parodying, but if you know, you know.
Yeah, and he does it in a very tiny studio against a green screen with a staff of like 3 people. You know, I mean, it's if you know how the people he is parodying work their, particular shows, that is exactly how they do them.
Which makes you wonder why Mysterio or Mysterio's team chose that particular news source to be the one.
Mysterio in that universe, that version of Quentin Beck seems like the exact type of guy that would be watching that show. He seems like exactly the type of fanboy of that type
of news.
Yep. And he probably was just like, every day I tune into J. Jonah Jameson and he sells the best supplements, and I mean,
he tells it like it is, man.
He tells it like it is. It seems like that's probably where he was at, so that's probably who he sent. If something happens to me, make sure JJ gets it, because he's going to be the one that will tell it, So yeah, I mean, that's probably who it is. And I like that they make Coach Wilson
also
a Mysterio was right truther too.
And we get a lot of it in this, a Mysterio fanboy throws green paint on Peter at one point in the movie, which somehow he gets to, forcing him to do the inside out costume, which explains the black costume. It's amazing how many costumes Peter wears in this movie, which really ends up being all the same costume, just different designs on it.
Yeah. And I like that, we had talked about what happens to Flash. When he finds out Peter's identity, and we find out exactly what happens to Flash. He turns out the fastest I'm Peter Parker's best friend book.
And tries to make money off of it.
And it doesn't quite go as well as he wants. It doesn't stop him from getting into school, though, which is interesting.
As I've said before, Flash Thompson seems to be the dumbest nerd at the nerd school and still got into MIT.
Yeah, and also the other, the people who are actually friends with Peter Parker, which is Ned's, throw at him, is they're refused MIT because they're actually friends with Peter Parker.
Yeah, they're associated. And Peter also gets rejected.
But the guy who writes the book about how he's best friends with Peter Parker somehow gets into MIT.
Yeah. And I like that they used MIT because that is Tony Stark's alma mater.
Yeah.
That they kind of still... Tony Stark's still influencing the Marvel Universe.
It's fascinating, though, that Tony wouldn't have left a Tony Stark grant for the education of Peter Parker or something. It's a little weird that he was so interested in making sure Peter was set up.
In Homecoming, he even says, "Hey, say the word, and I can get you in at MIT."
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting that he wouldn't have planned for that.
Well,
But I guess the blip,
Peter was dusted for 5 years, and they were not sure it was going to work. And by the time they figured out it did work, Thanos attacked.
Then Tony was dead. Yeah, and so maybe, I don't know. It kind of seems strange that there wouldn't have been like a Peter Parker Memorial Scholarship then, I guess.
But I am Peter Parker. Well, it's Peter Parker Memorial Scholarship, and you're alive.
Yeah, you're not a memorial anymore, so I don't know. But yeah, I there's so much in this movie to love, and it is so much Spider-Man.
I want when after I saw the movie, everyone does the joke, oh, it's spectacular, it's amazing, it's sensational, it's web of. But for me, this is probably the most Peter Parker Spider-Man movie I've ever seen, and I'm not talking about the fact there's just 3 of them. But it really shows you who Peter Parker is as a person. In that, he could have easily pressed that button at any time and send all of these villains back to their world to die by the hands of Spider-Man like we've seen in these movies. But he's going to save them. He's going to do whatever he can to save them because that's what Peter Parker does. We've said it right here on this show many times through those episodes that we did. Peter Parker is not a killer. He is going to do everything he can to save a life. We've seen it in Homecoming where he does everything possible to save the Vulture. So he's not going to, you guys die at my variant's hands. Bye-bye. But no, I'm going to save these people. I'm going to cure them, and I'm going to give them a second chance. That phrase, second chance, seems to be the crux of this entire movie.
The interesting thing is that a lot of people have said, like, well, wouldn't the button press at the end have sent all of them back right as they're dying anyway? But I think the point is that that the villains and the Spider-Man were all pulled theoretically at the same moment in time.
From what we know Andrew was pulled after 2 at some point. We know that Toby was pulled sometime after 3.
Well, yeah. So,
but everyone else seems to be pulled at the moment we last see them see Spider-Man. Like we see Doc Ock said, "I had Spider-Man by the neck," and that is right before the climax of Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, because he said, "Where is my machine?"
Yeah.
So he was looking for his machine, and Electro does specifically say that he was just about to turn into pure energy, and then he ended up here. So yeah, okay.
So
but
so
Electro. Hopefully they ended up at a point in time because where something happens that the Peter Parkers in that universe will realize that they're cured, or that their cure will prevent their deaths.
It would really suck
in the moment.
It would really suck if Norman goes back, and the moment he goes back and he's cured, and then there's a glider right going towards his crotch. Oh,
yeah. Because that, I mean, maybe he'll have a moment to roll out of the way because he knows what's coming. I don't know.
Not so much for Doc Ock, because we only know there's one way to stop that machine.
Yeah. That's the weird thing is that we don't exactly know where in the timeline they're back, but maybe Sandman, they'll die as themselves.
Sandman would at least get a chance to see his daughter again.
Yeah.
Maybe Electro would just have a normal life, go back just being a normal person. Lizard doesn't really change much. He would still probably go to jail for trying to turn the entire city into lizard people. So really, the only two people that would probably have a true second chance, at least in my opinion, would be Sandman and Electro.
Well, the thing is that Lizard would probably spend some time in jail, but he might be able to get out of jail eventually.
I mean, either way, he was cured at the end of that movie, so just nothing changes for the Lizard.
Yeah, but the only thing that other people have pointed out was, did Electro actually ever find out Peter was Spider-Man?
I don't think he did, but I have a theory on this.
That Harry told him?
No, possibly, but he says he never seen Spider-Man's face, But what I believe happened is that he says he was about to turn into pure energy, and then he felt something new. I think that when the dimensional barrier opened, he felt the technology of the MCU, the advanced technology, the arc reactor, and was drawn to it. That's what got him into the MCU.
That he didn't show up because he knew Peter. He just went, oh, energy, and went toward it.
That's my headcanon.
Yeah. Because that was the one thing, is like, if they're being drawn there because they know that Peter is Spider-Man, and the other thing is that, like, people have pointed out, wouldn't all of those people in that train car that saw Toby Peter's face?
They don't know the name Peter Parker, but they just know his face. You have to know the name Peter Parker. And if you've seen Venom: Let There Be Carnage, in that post-credit scene, Venom accesses the symbiote hive mind of all the memories of all the symbiotes in the multiverse.
Yeah.
And so that is how he knows who Peter Parker is. Yeah. At the end of that scene, he hears the name Peter Parker and immediately shoots up saying, "That guy." Yeah. So that's how that particular Venom knows, because he accessed the hive mind. That's an explanation. I wish they had done more with Venom in this movie, but it makes perfect sense that they would rather be drinking at the bar in Mexico than have anything to do with a fight in New York.
Yeah. But I do kind of think that it's still minor, nerd quibbles aside, and we've talked before that nerd quibbles are just fun, Yeah. It's debate club for nerds. But despite all that, this was still such a good movie, and I really hope it gets us more Andrew Garfield, because a lot of people are now looking at Andrew Garfield and going like, crap, he was a really good Spider-Man who just got some unfortunate scripts, which is what we talked about when we talked about those films. And hopefully now Sony will be like, yeah, let's have him fight Venom or something,
or Morbius, or anyone else,
anything.
Yeah.
let's have him fight anything as Spider-Man.
If all of this multiverse stuff is leading to like Secret Wars the movie, let Andrew Garfield be the Spider-Man of that movie.
Yeah, and let it be anything. I want more Spider-Man. I don't really care. I will say though, and this might get me a lot of hate, I feel like they dragged Toby one foot out of the grave and forced him to be in this movie. He did not seem like he wanted to be in this movie. I'm sorry.
I can, okay, I'll do the movie, but you got to get me this, and this. I wonder what how big was that check,
Yeah, it kind of seemed like he was like, look, I want these concessions, and I want to be in the suit as little as possible, how much can you CGI my character? Can I get a massage from Andrew Garfield while I'm at it? Like, I don't know what was in his writer for this, but it seems like it was probably a lot. And I'm not knocking his acting at all in this, but it just seems like he was not into this. It seems like everyone in this film wanted to be in this film except for Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like Willem Dafoe turned up for this movie and was like, holy crap, another Spider-Man movie. Awesome. And it seems like the only person that did not want to be in this movie was Tobey Maguire.
Dafoe gave the performance of a lifetime as, like, we've seen his performance as the Goblin in the first film. This feels like the next evolution of that performance, and it was amazing.
Willem Dafoe was like, do they give Oscars for Spider-Man movies? Because I'm gonna make them do that.
Like, it really took that Jekyll and Hyde side of the Goblin that we talked about with the first film and turned it up, and it worked. Especially when you see him destroy the Goblin mask, thinking that's what's going to get rid of this persona, and it just makes it even worse.
Yeah, it was so much better than the chair scene, in the first movie. It was so good.
Instead of a chair, we get a dumpster.
Oh, but it was so much better somehow. You want to mock it, but it was so good.
And because it's a new world, we can conquer this one. And it's also the sad of, he wanted to go home. He goes to his home and there's another family living there. He goes to find his company and it doesn't exist. He tries to find his son and his son doesn't exist. That's
your heart is breaking for him, and you're just like, oh, I want to hug this guy, and then you realize, like, no, don't hug him, he'll stab you in the back. Like, oh my goodness, yeah.
Like, he's just a guy that just wants to go home.
Yeah, and it just, you get suckered in by him, and you're like, the whole movie, you're like, oh, he's gonna turn on you, but this poor dude. And then, like, Melina is just there to match that energy, because you're like, I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. Like, do I want to see him, like, get in a fist fight, or do I want to see him, like, work with the heroes? Like, which side do I want him to be on in there? Oh, so good. And then
Melina gives this great performance even after he gets the chip in. Because, the voices are gone. For the first time in a while, I can think clearly. And you get this great moment with Otto, Norman. Yeah, I'm back.
And who knew that, like, Jamie Foxx and Thomas Hayden Church was the team up you wanted?
Yeah.
That was what was surprising me. I was like, I did not know that this was the team up I wanted, but it is.
Electric sand, let's go.
Yeah, like, let's make some glass. All right. But it works.
Yeah.
And then, like, Lizard, they kind of sideline him, unfortunately, but when he starts talking, you're like, okay, I'm here for this. And
it makes sense for some of these characters to interact. Get Lizard like Max, is that you? Dr. Connors, is that you?
Yeah. So it all kind of comes together in ways you don't expect, and there's that whole scene where Tom's Peter goes into the mirror dimension and figures it out with geometry, and you're like, this shouldn't work, but it does.
As corny as that line is, that's a pretty cool line. You know what's cooler than magic? Math.
I mean, it's
such
not,
a Peter Parker.
But thanks for playing.
But that's such a Peter Parker line.
Yeah, I mean, it's science bros being science bros, It's but the thing is they never quite say why Peter is able to kind of get his astral form back into his body, but you still kind of buy it. Yeah, Spidey sense maybe, but yeah.
there's an effect. Again, we've talked about how the theaters in your area suck.
Yeah.
So you probably didn't see it, but you see the wavy lines, the comic book spider sense lines on Peter's head in his astral form as his body is moving. It's like, it's the spider sense. And I love how they reference that.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, that did not come across in my version at all. No, yeah. You're right. So yeah, no, but it's really neat. I love all those little details. Yeah, so really this is just such a like I said, when it hits the home market and I can just like over and over and over and over watch it, which I'm gonna. This is gonna be one of those which I'm just gonna watch over and over and over again. So
yeah.
We have talked far too much, I think, about this.
This is so. Yeah, if you've seen it,
this was just meant to be like a little mini-sode about our thoughts and what we got right and what we got wrong. Strangely, we didn't get a lot wrong. No. We even talked about Andrew catching the
MJ.
And
I love the reaction, because it's not the crowd reaction, fine, but it's Andrew's reaction.
Yeah, when he was like, "Oh, thank goodness, not another one."
Not again. Yeah. And it's like, MJ going, "Are you okay?" Said, yeah.
Yeah, she's more like, "I think you had a worse time of that than I did, and I almost went splat."
Andrew Garfield Spider-Man had some flashbacks right there.
Yeah.
I kind of want to take that scene and edit in the scene of Gwen falling, kind of like flashing both sides, because that, I wish they had done that. I know that would have been a little too much for this movie, but
I'm sure somebody's probably done that by now. You might just be able to go to YouTube and be like side by side falling girls and Andrew Garfield.
Yeah. But yeah, this movie is amazing. This movie is awesome, spectacular, web of 2099. It's all of those things.
Yeah. No, and please, Sony, give us more Andrew Garfield. You screwed him so bad before. Please put him back in that Spidey suit.
Hey, I'm surprised he still fits in the Spidey suit.
No, I mean, he's still fit. Come on. Let's not go down that road again.
You simping on Andrew Garfield.
I'm going to keep doing that. He keeps looking like that. I'm going to keep going down that road.
All right. So, Spider-Man No Way Home, amazing film. It is awesome. It definitely ranks high in my list of Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, this is one of the top ones. I haven't come up with a definitive list, but it's got all the things.
Got all the things. Oh yeah, so I think we can end it there, because we'll talk for another hour.
Yep.
So
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We'll be back in a few days with Cruella, and we will talk to you all next time. Bye.
Don't let the magic stop here.
Join our conversation online on Facebook at Rewatching the Magic,
Twitter at Rewatch the Magic,
and of course, new episodes every week at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com.
Remember, the magic is for everyone.
It only stops if you let it.